Are you consuming your stress and comfort food is doing more than really comforting you? So, my name is Kamisha Jones Brandon. I am a burnout overcomer, overcoming workaholic, and clinical social worker. And today we're going to dig into our relationship to food and particularly our relationship to food when we're stressed. So, if you are joining me for the first time, please like the video. Please share it with someone that you know who is struggling with burnout. And if you're on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. Trying to reach 300 subscribers by the end of the year, and we're like 20 away. So just take a moment to subscribe. And then also in the description are links to my newsletter that I send out every 2 weeks to cover relevant topics as it relates to stress, burnout, and Black women. So today's topic is consuming our stress, emotional eating, and burnout. So we are coming up on the holidays, and this is a time where we're really, really thinking about food. Are we going to be making food for people? You know, are we going to be looking up new recipes? Our food is a source of connecting with other people. And I thought it would be good to just talk about not just stress around the holidays and food, but also how it may show up different in ways that we may not really fully grasp. So I want to just start by just talking about the cultural history of comfort food, particularly in, the Black African American community. So our history, goes back thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. However, in America, when thinking about, our ancestors and what they went through in slavery, food was a very, very important thing. And because of the way that African Americans were treated in terms of not getting enough food, having to stretch food, not being properly nourished, food was a way, once we were able to, be emancipated and all those things beyond that, food was a source of not just nourishment, but connection to other people. And I'm really, really proud of our history in terms of the food that made it past the transatlantic slave trade, but also like the food traditions that we've been able to keep as a community. And so with the food cultural traditions that we have, like I think about for my family and so many other families, we have Sunday dinner where we come together, we build connections, and the food is just a part of that. And it's very, very important. But also, there are things about our relationship to food that definitely impacts how our relationship to food in terms of when we experience different seasons, different stressors in our lives, even beyond the connection that we make to other people with food. And so one of the things that I want to just really touch on is just like Black women's relationship to chronic stress in like eating disorders. So eating disorders are not talked about a lot in general, but especially in the Black community. And often when we think about eating disorders, we mainly think about like anorexia or bulimia or not eating enough. But also a part of having what would be considered disordered eating is eating too much or eating excessively, or eating when you're experiencing stressors that impact your mental well-being. So a statistic that I found when I was facilitating a workshop on Black women and chronic stress was that chronic stress is a predictor for having disordered eating as Black women. And also chronic stress increases the likelihood of obesity. It increases the likelihood of other chronic health conditions, diabetes, high blood pressure, all those different things. And so our relationship to food as a way to respond to what we're experiencing in life is really, really important. It's not just connected to our individual nourishment, but it's also connected to all these other health outcomes that aren't often talked about. And so, why do we reach for food when we are stressed? Like, there are so many different reasons, but for one, when we're stressed and we're reaching for food, it really helps to provide temporary relief and pleasure, right? You're eating something that you really, really enjoy, you're feeling overwhelmed, and something happens biologically when we have that temporary relief. But also, our relationship to food can be a sense of control when we're in challenging times. I may not be able to control what my supervisor is doing or what's happening in my family, but I do have control over what I put into my body. And so that is kind of the relationship to food and stress, and why we reach for food when we are very, very overwhelmed. And I've done it myself. It took me a long time to get out of overeating or using food as like a coping mechanism when I was really stressed and overwhelmed. And it's something that so many people struggle with, but isn't, often really touched on, or people may feel vulnerable to say, this is how I'm responding to what's happening in my life, is to, consume certain foods. So what do you do when you are stressed and you're seeking food for comfort or relief? The first thing that I really want to encourage you all to do is to pause, like stop, in terms of if you feel a urge to, eat certain food when you're in a place of crisis or when you're having a challenging time, the first thing to do is to like stop and pause and ask, like, am I really hungry? Why do I have a desire maybe to eat this food? What's going on? And it gives you a time to regulate yourselves. A couple of weeks ago, I was feeling just really overwhelmed. And, I had food in my house that I had cooked, but I just I guess, memory was like, okay, I'm just going to go eat out. And then I had to stop and I was like, I have food in my fridge. I'm not really hungry. Why do I want to reach food during this time? And it was literally because I was overwhelmed, and eating food would have made me feel better. So the first thing I want you to do is stop, pause, ask, why am I hungry? The next thing is to know your trigger foods and situations. So we all have situations that can increase our likelihood to overindulge or not indulge enough. So knowing what those situations are, knowing, who those people are who can push you to that limit, and being able to understand that, so that when those things do come up, you're developing other ways to respond to it, instead of necessarily maybe reaching for comfort food or things that are that would be satisfying. And then the other thing that has really, really helped me, and I feel like it's really practical for so many people, is to plan out your meals that are nourishing throughout the day, so that you're not necessarily reaching for that comfort food if you are experiencing stress. So that could look like, if you have an app, like recording what you're planning to eat. It could also be, meal prepping days in advance. So, okay, during the day, I'm reaching for fruit. I'm reaching for vegetables. I'm reaching for, food that's nourishing, but also food that is healthy, even if I do start to feel the urge to, consume certain food. And one of the things that I really enjoy are like recipes and food blogs. So I'm a big person who just loves to cook so many different dishes and so many different cuisines. And so sometimes our relationship to food can be trying new things, and being intentional about planning can actually be really, really exciting, because you're learning something new, you're testing like your cooking skills, but you're also being super intentional about what you're putting in your body. And then the last thing is just really developing a healing relationship with food. When it comes to stress and other things that we're dealing with our mental health, our relationship to food might not always be healing. And what I really love right now, amongst Black women, we have some of the highest rates of people who are vegans, or people who are thinking about from a lens of wellness, and thinking about how can I have a relationship with food that is healing. It can be comforting as well, but like, how can I have a healing relationship with food, and then a healing relationship that translates to my mind and translates to my body as well? So our relationship to food, is complex. There's so many different things that are wrapped up into it in terms of our culture, our traditions, our environments, our connections. It's really important to monitor and understand when we may have a relationship to food that may be causing more harm than good, especially in times where there is, heightened stress or concerns. So that is what I wanted to talk about today. I don't know if you all are like me, but I'm so looking forward to next week, for Thanksgiving. I'm actually going to be cooking like peach cobbler, macaroni and cheese. So I'm really, really looking forward, to that next week. But as we go into the holidays, and especially as we go into a stressful time, the end of the year is a stressful time for a lot of people, and especially with what's going on in our world, there's a heightened people are in heightened crisis and stress right now. So I wanted to talk about this because of the season that we're in and that we're heading into, and for you to think about ways that you can be intentional in terms of, your relationship to food, and how you can cope with stress in ways that are healing. So, next topic. So, in 2 weeks, we'll be getting your house in order, how organization and clarity prevent stress. So, I'm going to be talking about, before we're heading into 2025, like how we can utilize organization, that can help to, prevent stress. I don't know if you've been in a place where there's so much going on, and your house is a mess, your room is a mess, your office is a mess, and that can be, really, really difficult for people. So I want to talk about just the benefits of organization, getting your house in order, getting things in order before the top of the year, so you can walk into the year in a space of peace, relaxation, and you have what you need, and those things are in order. So, join me every other Thursday. So I'll be back in 2 weeks at 12 p.m. Central Time, to discuss a different topic as it relates to burnout. Please like the video. Please share, this video with someone who might be struggling with burnout, stress, and their relationship to food. And please subscribe to the YouTube channel. As I said, we're trying to get to 300 subscribers. Subscribe to my newsletter. The information is in the description. And I hope that you all are well during this upcoming season. Take care of all of you, and be well.